Oh, hey, it's certainly been a while, hasn't it? Grow Home, an action-adventure game developed in the Unity engine and published by Ubisoft. I understand Ubisoft is known nowadays as that one company who makes a new Assassin's Creed or Watch Dogs or any kind of open-world game every second, that the idea of them making something this outlandish is kinda jarring. But in actuality, they do have a number of subsidiaries, ranging from many different countries that develop a lot of their published games. For example, Ubisoft Montpellier are the ones responsible for the main Rayman games Beyond Good and Evil and Valiant Hearts, while Ubisoft Montreal developed games like Child of Light. I could go on and on about all the different kinds of worldwide developers who worked on Ubisoft properties, but for now I want to focus our attention on Ubisoft Reflections, a developer from the United Kingdom who created this indie hit, Grow Home. Grow Home originally started as an experimental project run by a group of small developers at Ubisoft Reflections. It was really meant to be nothing more than just a simple toy or a fun little piece of software meant to be played around with by the staff. However, as they continued working and tweaking on the project, they eventually found the means to make it a fully fledged game. So much so that the bigwigs down at Ubisoft pretty much gave the green light to publish this game into what we know now as Grow Home. I recall coming across this game after looking for some modern 3D platformers. I guess the hype for games like Yooka-Laylee and Hat in Time really drew me in, so that's how I managed to find Grow Home on Steam's featured page. Though I gotta make this point right now. Coming into this game expecting some sort of 3D collectathon platformer a la Super Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie, it really blew my expectations out the window because what I ended up playing was something much bigger. Grow Home is a fascinating take on exploring an open world. It challenges you right from the beginning where you take control of a botanical utility droid, or a bud. He gets immediately deployed to its destination, which is a star plant down below. But the problem is that you've fallen all the way down and you need a way to get back up to grow that star plant and harvest its seeds, so how the heck do you go about doing that? Bud starts off extremely limited at first, but by pulling out crystals from the land, you're able to gain new abilities. First and foremost, the ability to jump. So in this platforming game, they programmed a robot that was meant to scale a giant beanstalk, and he doesn't even know how to jump? This doesn't really matter in the long run, as despite being a goofy robot with a raggedy walking cycle, a questionably floaty jump, and a silly smile to boot, Bud is built in with probably the most essential component to this game, and that's climbing. By using the left and right triggers acting as Bud's left and right hands, you'll be able to grab onto anything hovering over his hands by pushing the corresponding buttons. And I mean literally, any kind of solid surface, Bud's hands will just gravitate towards its reach. As a result, by moving in whatever direction and by tilting the camera just right, you can have Bud climb on not just walls, but pretty much anything. This is a really fun mechanic. Being able to climb any kind of solid surface pretty much offers you limitless freedom and more incentive to explore. It also makes those crystals a lot more intuitive to collect. Looking back at most 3D platformers, a lot of the collectibles were in very comprehensive locations. It required you to either perform some sort of super jump to reach it, or go a different route and run into it. But with Grow Home, I've never had obtaining collectibles done this simple. It's initially discouraging to see the difficult locations of some of these crystals and how I would go about collecting them, especially with a jump like this. But in due time I got used to the fact that with enough persistence I could just climb up there and grab it for myself. Soon enough I was climbing behind mountains, discovering spooky caves and all sorts of intelligent life forms, and eventually on my way to start growing that star plant. Or at least the bud of the star plant. Hey, that makes sense. Sprouting from the giant stalk are these things called star shoots, which Bud will have to carefully hang on to in order to make it start growing. From there you direct the star shoots towards the energy rocks, these small islands with yellow energy below them that sometimes contains crystals to collect around. With every energy rock the star shoot connects to, the star plant will continue to grow. Typically every level requires a certain number of energy rocks to be connected in order for the star stalk to reach the next level. I should also mention that the star shoots are very unpredictable when it comes to their growth. Sure, you're able to steer them where you want as long as you ride them, but it often feels like the chutes have a mind of their own and often tend to fight against your controls. Call me crazy, but I wasn't sure whether they wanted to grow their own way or if I was just forcing them to grow a certain way. The shape of the plant can make all sorts of twists and turns, and it can even have multiple shoots upon shoots. And throughout your playthrough, the stalk will be kept in the exact same pattern you grew it for the entire game. It's very interesting just to see how organic and irregular the world of this game can be. You don't just explore the world, but you're also creating the world as well. I like how when the game starts with Bud free-falling, you get a glimpse of all the islands you're slowly growing up to. You start from your home ship all the way up in space to an asteroid belt to a mountain with a waterfall to a land filled with bouncy mushrooms all the way down to the beach world down below. Though I guess since you're climbing your way back up means you have to go through all of it in reverse. As you collect a certain percentage of crystals, Bud will unlock new abilities that will enhance his maneuverability. One of the first abilities you'll get is being able to zoom the camera in and out. Not only is it helpful to get a view of where you are, but it definitely pushes the game to an all-new perspective. Sometimes I would just zoom out while Bud was hanging somewhere or he was on top of something and just gaze with wonder at his majesty. Collecting crystals are mostly for upgrading your jump rocket, an ability you obtain once you collect 20 crystals. It doesn't do much at first besides a small vertical boost and a nifty hover, but with enough upgrades you can make the rocket more efficient to use and can often help you reach dizzying heights. I gotta say, the world of Grow Home is geometrically simple, but it's filled with so much abstract design and vast depth of field. Floating islands just wander about the sky and change in visual temperature from day to night, some being colossal mountains while others are just small pieces of floating rock, and each and every one is capable of being reached and thoroughly explored. I guess it's that tried and true polygonal aesthetic that games like Star Fox made popular, but Grow Home just nails it with such vibrant cell shading on top of an amazing scale in the environment. I mean, look at this view, it's breathtaking. But with that limitless freedom and lack of any boundaries comes the depth perception of the world around you, and let me tell you, once you reach high enough and you actually look down, you start to feel that freaking height, like right there. The game just does a fantastic job giving you a sense of vertigo and just how broad your environment really is. Like at any point, if you jump at just the wrong moment, you'll end up free falling to your very doom, which is admittedly hilarious. You're doing great, bud. Mom, you always know best. Of course, the main draw of this game is the game's physics. To put it simply, all objects, including Bud's limbs, body, and hands, will move in real time and adapt to whatever interaction occurs. So this pretty much means things like gravity acting on Bud when he starts to fall and reaches terminal velocity, to simple things like being unable to move a boulder because a bunch of other boulders are piling up on it. Like the controls, the physics do take some time to get used to, what with the platforming feeling extremely floaty, like almost to the point where I just end up grabbing onto everything for dear life when I'm at the mercy of the game's physics. But even then, Bud is just filled with beans and just loves to wiggle and move around his body parts, so much so that he occasionally squirms around when climbing or even gets stuck on a crevice because of his limbs. That's pretty funny. Now, normally some people would call this a hindrance or a flaw to the game's design, but to me, I saw it as a unique challenge to mastering the game's controls. I mean, the case with most physics-based games is to play the game with the challenge of real-time physics. It almost never guarantees a processed effect every time, meaning it always changes things up and allows the player to think logically on how to take advantage of the game's physics. I guess it's more common to see this type of gameplay on puzzle games, where strategizing is more procedural since you have more time to plan things out, whereas a live-action platforming game like this means you have to adapt to the game's physics on the spot. And really, it doesn't take long to figure out the kinks of this clunky, jittery robot controls. To me, it's no different than wrapping your brain around the controls for a game like Octodad. Grow Home is an incredibly fascinating platforming experience. I wouldn't exactly call it a traditional 3D platformer like Mario or Banjo, but more of an adventure game with platforming elements that also has its own twist on the genre. And that twist in particular is what makes the game so special. I just got so invested, exploring every nook and cranny and growing as many stalks as I could in the world of Grow Home, that getting lost or wandering around in this game, it never really became much of a problem to me, which is really saying something because I don't like it when games have bad conveyance. But Grow Home's objectives are laid clear right from the beginning. You start from point A, and you need to get to point B, and the game is built around how you get to point B. As the old saying goes, the journey is much greater than the destination. This game is quite the pleasant surprise if you ask me. I mean, it may have started as an internal passion project that could have, easily been shoved away as a novelty and nothing more. But the way they expanded the gameplay and the possibilities of the world expanding, it really shows the effort and the love put into this project. Bottom line, it's a great game. You can buy it on PS4 or PC, so go ahead and get it for yourself and play it. And who knows, it just might grow on you.